So in this advanced driving video, we're going to be looking outside the car at the road, observational skills, anticipation skills, building up a picture of what's around us, and really how to effectively use our mirrors, because a lot of drivers are not really taking in all the information when they use their mirrors and when they look around the car. And we're missing important indicators of what lies ahead. So we could potentially avoid problems and avoid accidents if we're just aware of these little areas that many drivers fall down on. So we're looking at techniques, and I've just collated it all into this video, but please let me know your comments. And bear in mind that laws vary from region to region, so some of the things may not be legal in certain situations and certain areas. If you're just learning to drive, this probably isn't the guide for you. You need to develop those basic skills before you can start going into the more advanced driving techniques. You'll feel quite overwhelmed when you look at what an advanced driver is thinking about and dealing with as he drives the car. And you're probably at the stage where you're still looking down at your gear stick to see what gear you're in, and you're looking down to find the pedals. So you need to really to move to a point where you're au fait and you completely understand everything in the car. You're fairly good at estimating your speed, and then you can start developing these more advanced driving thought processes and techniques to just further improve and elevate your driving style above the average. So the first skill we're really going to look at developing is observation. Now, there is a big difference between seeing something and observing something. We can see things. How often have people put on accident claim forms, "I didn't see them," or "they didn't see me," when in reality they did see us, but they didn't observe. They didn't think about the information that was going through their eyes. They didn't process it. They didn't take evasive action. So another thing we need to do that's part of these observational skills is reading the road. So as you pass a road sign, you should make a conscious note of what that road sign is, what it's telling you. So most drivers, if you just ask them what was the last sign you passed, someone's done this to me and it was quite embarrassing really. I just passed loads of signs and I couldn't tell you what those signs were. It was on my daily route. I've probably seen those signs thousands of times, but I never really paid that much attention to them. So for example, you pass a crossroad sign. What's that telling you? Well, obviously there's a crossroad up ahead, but your driver brain should be kicking in. There's a crossroad up ahead. I could be meeting traffic coming off the side junctions, joining this main stream. I may need to slow up and take evasive action. There could be some other hazard up ahead that I need to be particularly aware of. So just as important as seeing these things, we need to think about them. We need to engage our brains when it comes to driving. Another thing to look out for is brake lights up ahead. So a car may be going round a bend ahead of you. You can't see beyond that bend. But if you notice that car is braking, that would indicate that you need to slow up, at least ease off the throttle as you go into that bend. Spotting these warning signs early on can prevent you from blundering into a problem or having to take drastic evasive action. At least you'll be prepared to slow the car up, or your foot will be over the brake pedal ready to take control should the worst happen as you go round that bend. We also need to read the weather as a driver. So in the wet, the snow, the ice and foggy conditions, we need to adjust our driving style. The car is not going to handle the same. Cornering is going to be more tricky. Braking is going to take longer. We need to allow those extra margins in order to maintain a safe driving experience. So we could talk about a focus bubble around the car. So you want to keep your attention focused in front of you, not just on the car in front or the car in front of them, but way up in distance. An experienced driver builds up a list of opportunities to view the road ahead. For example, you're on a hill, you may have a big view of the road sweeping off to the right that you won't get when you're further down in the valley of that hill. So if that's a situation, you'll use these early opportunities, look through hedges or gaps, or even look at reflections of cars up ahead, just to build up a picture of what's coming up in the distance. And that will allow you to start building up this observation to anticipate what is going to happen and to drive accordingly. So you may need to slow up, you may need to shave off that little bit of speed, you might need to change your road position just to be safe. You may just need to be on high alert with your foot ready to cover the brake should you need to take evasive action. And reading the road, here in the UK, we've got an instance of the road markings giving you an idea of what's up ahead. So the white dashed lines down the middle of the road, as you approach a bend or a hazard up ahead, those lines become longer, the gaps between them become shorter. So if you're aware of that fact, and that certainly wasn't something that was taught to me, let me know in the comments if this is something that you were taught when you were learning to drive your car. But that little bit of knowledge can tell you that there's something up ahead, a hazard, you may need to slow up, or just position your car differently so that you can take whatever bend it is safely, avoiding any potential hazards coming towards you from the other part of that bend. Another problem that people fall into when it comes to observation is thinking they've seen. So looking around the car, you've got various pillars around the screen, and it's shocking really how much these pillars can actually obscure. So in this instance here, it's a good 3 seconds that the cars coming towards me are completely obscured with the A-pillar. So what you need to do is learn to move your head as you observe. Just make sure that you're not trapped in any blind spots. The worst thing you can do as a driver is to assume that you can see. You need to make sure that you can see ahead. And when you use your mirrors as well, they're not always telling you exactly what's behind you. The only way of knowing what's behind you in that blind spot is to physically turn your head around and have a look. Again, moving your body. So when you're on a country road, for example, and you go down a sweeping left-hand bend, you might move your body to the right, and that'll give you a little bit of a further view into the apex, into the bend that you're taking. Those few extra split seconds can make a difference to being able to take evasive action or crashing into someone or something. So let's just test our observation skills with this little bit of video that I shot while I was out and about. So using your observational skills, just try and see what's going on, anticipate the problems, pay particular attention to what's going on and what's around you. And then after we've run through this 60-second segment, I'll rewind it and we'll go through slowly, and I'll talk you through the thought processes that I'm having as I'm driving up this road, and we can just compare notes at the end. And please let me know in the comments if I've missed something off. Okay, so fairly typical journey through your typical English town. Fairly heavy traffic, but not ridiculously heavy, and there was a lot going on here. So let's just play it back much more slowly and analyse what was going on in this scene. There's a car coming out the junction at the left, so that could potentially be a risk to me. But I'm also noticing on the right, there is a car. His road position would indicate he's turning left, but I would never take that for granted. His vision is going to be obscured by this lorry coming towards us. So I've got to be prepared to take evasive action should he pull out of that junction, attempt to turn right, and maybe he hasn't seen me at all. I'm looking as well for road signs. So there's a car park to my right, so we're clearly in some kind of tourist area. It's a high street, so I'm expecting pedestrians. I'm keeping an eye out for them. But already way up ahead, I'm noticing a van. I'm noticing an Audi Q3. The Audi Q3 is stationary and indicating right. The van appears to be pulling out, so I could shoot straight up to them, or I can ease off and start slowing up already. I've chosen to ease off and slow up in advance. The road markings here have changed. We've now got central dashed lines and we've got the zigzag lines which indicate there is a pelican crossing. So again, that is a potential stopping point or a hazard that I may need to negotiate as I come up to that. So moving up the road a little bit further, we've got some more parked cars on the left. I'm just going to make sure I've got sufficient cushion around me. That van was clearly pulling out, so I'm going to position myself to the left of the van. I'm going to keep this junction space to the left of me clear, so there's no risk for cars coming out and overshooting that junction, just clipping me. And I'm going to move into a central position. Now that Audi Q3 up ahead is still indicating right. He's waiting for a parking space, so I am probably going to have to stop, which I hate doing because that wastes fuel. But this van coming towards him has flashed his lights. He's got an opportunity, so I've slowed right up. There's great parking on the left by this Vauxhall, so I'm moving out a little bit more so I don't clip his mirror. I'm keeping the car rolling slowly, so I really want to keep my momentum going, but I probably will have to stop. There's a car coming out of that space. I'm still rolling, cars coming out of the space. Will I be able to get through this without bringing the car to a stop? Could this be a victory to my hypermiling techniques? I really am absolutely crawling now, but I've not stopped. The car is still moving. So that BMW has pulled out of the space. He's moving away. The Audi Q5, that's indicating right, is moving in. my road up ahead is clear now, and I haven't actually stopped, so I've been able to maintain my momentum. If I'd anticipated better earlier on, I could probably have kept my momentum going a little bit further up this road. So it's a hill, there's a road to my left, I'm aware of that road, the potential hazards there. It seems to be all clear, so I can proceed over it without too much of a worry and without too many problems. And the road up ahead is looking fairly clear, so I'm looking way up into the junction. There's a obstruction on the right, potentially that van, so cars are probably going to be going around that van. It looks like that car is slowing up and waiting for me, so I'm just going to keep proceeding along. There's a junction to my left. I'm going to give it a wide berth, particularly if I notice any emerging cars, but again it seems clear, so I can proceed with caution. So I'm also looking out for road signs as I drive along. So there's a road sign coming up, which is just there for informational purposes. There's a junction to the right, some kind of junction or driveway to the left. But again, there's no cars on that. There's no potential problems on that. I'm keeping an eye out as well for children that may be playing with a ball, because rolling a ball down the hill into the path of the cars is a key problem area. We're in a 20-mile-an-hour limit. The small 20 zone would indicate there's going to be a change of the zone. I've got double white lines in the middle of the road, so I can't do any overtaking procedures at this point. And we're coming up to the exit of this town. There's a main junction. I've got some more informational signs giving me direction. I've got a speed limit reminder repeater just reminding me that this is a 20 limit. Don't get me started on these 20 limits that they're springing up all over the place. There's a slow sign on the road, junction to the left, and it looks like I've made it through all of that. I didn't have to stop. I was able to keep everything moving quite nicely. So I hope that's been useful to you. Please boot that like button. We've got more on driving coming soon. Please subscribe to the channel. We'd love you to stay tuned and keep up with all the driving and car maintenance and performance tips that we've got coming out. And I've lined this video up for you that you should find really interesting. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in this next video.